So, when we're talking about a person, obviously the head is the crown chakra. So, that's where your knowledge is, that's where your intelligence is, and that is where your throne and everything else correlates and combines together as one, including where your thoughts are and your psyche and conscience and everything else is. So, when we're talking about the obvious crown chakra, meaning the crown that is symbolically supposed to be passed on from family members to family members, which means the daughter gets the mom's crown as time goes on, as it is certain and most obvious that that is how it works, along with rings and everything else in time and history. So, to say that if you are mentally ill and or you do not receive your supposed crown ring as, for example, an engagement to happy ever after, these are the symbolical signs that perhaps people have not made it, as in terms of to be granted infinity life, infinity love, and so forth. So it is not about the obvious fighting for strength, fighting for whatever else. It's not immature that very way, and it is most obvious and certain that the supposed crown is, when you look at it in the Buddhism way of living of life, that it is obvious where your head and peace and everything actually is. So the most certain part of it is if you are stolen, kidnapped, and or theft somewhere, you might lose items and certain passed on items from family members. For example, it could be a ring, it could be a crown, it could be a home, it could be a castle, it could be whatever it could be. So the obvious sign of certainty is once it's found, you would truly know it's yours when you wear it. So I have noticed in this whole entire infinity, after my emergency phone call was not an emergency phone call, but my emergency contact had came to see me. But the obvious sign is that in the airheads, and in the midst of everything and the infinite life, I did hear my emergency contact mention, this is my crown, and this is what I wear, and I must wear the red one. So it is certain and most obvious the rose is red, as roses are red, violets are blue. So it is obvious that the universal poems and things like that in my daily life has been known that roses are red. But upon picking this, symbolically in a scary movie that I did watch about chopping, which was about Babunzin being a Chinese guy that had a moon on his head. So it is obvious that when I was looking through some stuff, I had come across this right crown, and during the whole infinite and after the emergency contact, this was when Satan's voice said, I wear the red one. And I am wearing the red one, and it is obvious that when I don't wear it, I have a mental issue, as in terms of people hopping and climbing all over my head in hierarchy to say and do whatever they want to do and say without permission. So these are obvious signs that if you are going through something and you did not get your obvious items that you may need, it is certain that you might be battling through some issues. So when we're talking or referring to these items, it is obvious that one or many should get their own items. And when you don't have your own items, that is when child theft and things like that occur. So, do you want to steal my crown, my ring, my things, my husband, my wife, my whatever, my children? Obviously not. Because that's going to vindicate, as in terms of that is going to be something karmatic cycles that happen and go on and so forth. So you must get your own fucking things. So the certainty and most obvious is, upon getting my engagement ring, somehow it had came to my possession. And this engagement ring is very important as it symbolizes and marks K14. Someone's soul name is starting with the letter K. So this is obvious that it is not a toy and or anything for anyone else to wear for fun, is it? Because if you do, then obviously you are seriously stealing someone else's and not letting people succeed, and you are perhaps inhibiting someone else's success and or passings. So it is certain and obvious that in my home, my family, my alien Asian mom had mentioned that there was a necklace heart that was red that was supposed to be passed on to every daughter, and it was red. So it turns out I had gone out and bought a bunch of red items for my family members, which are the women in my family member. So it's certain that if you don't know which items are supposed to be passed on, since the whole symbolically talking Game of Thrones came out around 2016, so, and the whole war and things that go on and so forth, it is certain that people lose items and lose objects and things like that that are meant to be passed on. So it is obviously not passing on the throne, is it? If it's yours. So obviously someone's vagina is a rose, but a guy wants it. So obviously the friends and family and people that do care had gone out and specifically picked out a ring for me, and Soul Element had managed to get me this ring. It is carved inside letter K, number 14, with symbolically what it looks like an S for snake ear in Thai religious belief. And that is 1988. So it is obvious that from my memory, what my mother had told me from the Buddhist areas, that my birth year is a snake, big snake in Thai territory calendar. So it obviously indicates that it shows a guy's soul name starting with a K, one love, and something to do with snake. So if we figure this out, obviously it's going to be either Jacob, like Jake the Snake, and or it's going to be obviously the guy born 1988. But obviously that wasn't Zach, was it? Because that was bashed, ruined, and destroyed, wasn't it? So the obvious signs are, who would it be? So obviously the only people I could think of with the soul name starting with K is the supposedly three brothers from the dark side, with the Black Rose and the Unknown and the obvious signs of the dark side. But is it really them? Or could it be someone else born in 1988, soul name starting with K as well? So these are the type of things that we do not know, and the obvious certain signs are somehow the ritual, hell and dark side, and just how is supposedly the team Manchester United, one of the best soccer teams, how would they lose? Obviously, they know the rules and regulations. There's not going to be something illegal going on, is there?